This week, the RBA, known as the Reserve Bank of Australia, has wound up in the news yet again, courtesy of our Treasurer's comments and maybe some of his ongoing comments. I think everyone's a little bit nervous because we're expecting the figures of the national accounts, such as the gross domestic product, and has the economy grown or has it shrunk? It is making people a little bit nervous, and I think there is definitely a case to be said here because, yes, the RBA and its interest rate policies is operating basically on an island all of its own, and you've no doubt heard me say something about this once or twice a year. Well, this is one of those occasions where I'm talking about interest rates. And I feel it's a worthy topic because I hear a lot of things in the business community. I'm a member of different business associations and clubs out there. And people do talk and say, oh, the economy is doing this and the economy is doing that. So let's just take a quick look at what's going on right now. So just quickly, let's focus on what might be the issue that is taking over everyone's mind. The September figures is basically going to be a fairly much a knife-edge type of figure. If we take a look back at when the releases were previously, going back to December of last year, we had 0.2%, March this year, 0.2%, June this year, only just 3 months ago, 0.1%. So things are looking a little bit on the nervous side, and I can understand why they're a little bit edgy about what's going on and how this may affect the decisions in relation to the actual economy and what the situation is with interest rates being the big influence on people's buying behaviour. Now, this article is a tell-all article. Basically, you could say it's kind of like a confessional article in that sense because the Treasurer here is revealing his hand in how he feels about where the economy is at the moment ahead of the GDP figures arriving on Wednesday. And I feel, yes, he says, okay, the buck stops with me, it's all my fault, that kind of thing, which does sound a bit of a plaintive cry, but he is deflecting a little bit of the issue here to do with where the RBA sits on issues, with outlining here some of the other different issues that have come up. This was an article in essentially in yesterday's newspaper. There's a few things that are covered here, and I'll just flick through briefly here. Probably one of the main key issues here is that our economy has been hit by lower iron ore prices and exports accordingly, which is to other notable countries within the region, and that does affect where we're at. However, is it really entirely the Treasurer's fault? Well, probably not. Ross Gittins does have an article here also on the same topic. And Ross Gittins here says, the RBA worries too much about expectations of a continuing high inflation rather than the actual inflation that's occurred and so forth. And I believe, once again, there's a case here that is illustrated that how the RBA makes decisions is on an antiquated scale, on a different type of way how decisions are made these days in relation to economics. But they're all relying upon something which, personally, I believe is a little bit outdated there with the Keynesian type of model. Another interesting thing here, if we are just to take a quick little look, another interesting thing here is there's an article in here in the Financial Review that by John Quiggin, this one down here, article here in the opinion sections here, to do with the Australian economy. Chalmers is more in touch with the economy than the RBA. This is something that John Quiggin says, and if we just read a little bit of the what he says here, it's easy enough to understand the Treasurer's criticism of the RBA in political terms, but the inflation target that is good for the central bank as an institution is not good for the economy. John Quiggin does make a very valid case. Just because they're pursuing the interest rate ideology, and that's what I'll call it, an ideology, does not mean to say that this is of benefit to the economy as a whole, and putting a stranglehold noose around the neck of everyone buying and selling and that sort of thing in the general economy isn't helping us at all. It can be possibly an inflation factor in itself. So the big question is here, where will the GDP figures end at on the Wednesday, on September the 4th? That's the big question. Obviously, I believe quite a lot of people are going to be sitting on the edge of their screens, figuring out what's going on and when those figures are going to be released, particularly the Treasurer in this particular case. And is the RBA watching it to the degree that the Treasurer is interested in getting the result that we want? I would be interested in reading what Ross Gittins has to say a little bit further down the track on this very topic. I believe the interest rate figures is a very interesting thing because our GDP figure will be an indication as to whether the economy is actually growing or whether it's contracting, and if it's contracting, by how much, and how much will this affect the government in its pursuit of coming back into office with an election year looming the following year. And how does this affect a lot of businesses with loans outstanding and things like that, and also businesses that are just trying to merely survive by getting new customers in and hoping that they'll spend enough money to keep their business going so they can earn enough income and keep their employees going. These are the big questions that need to be answered, so let's wait with bated breath to see what the figures are on the Wednesday. This is David Newton speaking. Please make a comment if this is of particular interest to you, and I invite you to subscribe. I do cover a myriad of different small business topics on this channel. Bye for now.